Pull it. In many cases, you never know what is waiting for you behind a trap gate. There are times when we return with high expectations, only to be met with disappointment. But there are also times when everything changes completely overnight. Today, we are counting down the 5 most memorable trap checks, and the number 1 spot belongs to the trap that left everyone completely surprised when they returned to the site. The 5th spot took place on a farming property where wild boars regularly appeared during the night. The trap was set in the late afternoon and left active throughout the night. When the sun rose high the following day, it was time to check the results. Even from a distance, everyone noticed that the trap was no longer in its original condition. That could only mean one thing. It had been triggered during the night. After approaching the site, the team began handling the situation and completed a harvest. The wild boars were then loaded onto a vehicle and transported away from the area. A pretty good result, but the next positions are even more remarkable. Unlike the previous one, this trap was deployed very early. The goal was to take advantage of the period when wild boars were moving most actively during the day. After completing all preparations, the team left the site and waited. By late afternoon, they returned. The trap had done its job. The results showed that wild boar activity in this area was higher than originally expected. A quick harvest was carried out before nightfall. It seemed like this had already been a successful day, but the next location brought an even bigger surprise. This was a special location. Dense woodland on one side, an open area on the other, where fresh tracks frequently appeared. Experience suggested that places like this often served as ideal travel corridors for wild boars. The trap was positioned directly along that route, and this time, the prediction was completely accurate. When they returned to inspect it, everyone quickly realized that this was one of the best results seen so far in the video. After handling the site and completing the harvest, the entire team believed it would be difficult to find a trap more effective than this one. But then the second place entry appeared. This was the trap that had generated a great deal of expectation. The surrounding area was covered with signs. Trail cameras had also recorded frequent activity beforehand. Everything suggested that this could be a major harvest. During the night, the trap was indeed triggered. The good news arrived very early. But when the team approached the site the following morning, emotions quickly changed. After all the expectations, the results stopped at just 4 boars. Not a complete failure, but certainly not what everyone had hoped for. Even so, instead of giving up, the team decided to process the site quickly. The trap was then reset the very same day, a decision that seemed completely ordinary, but it would lead to the most memorable moment of the entire video. That evening, everyone returned to the very trap that had caused disappointment. No one knew whether resetting it would bring any results at all. But then, in the darkness, something unexpected happened. Movement began appearing around the trap site. Then the numbers started to increase. And eventually, the trap was triggered once again. When they inspected the site, everyone quickly realized that this time was completely different. What had failed to happen during the previous check had finally occurred. After nothing more than a simple reset, the trap produced results far beyond expectations. That is why it deserves the #1 position on today's list.
Hey. Shh, come on.
The traps do not always produce the same results. Sometimes they exceed expectations. Sometimes they leave everyone disappointed. But it is exactly that unpredictability that makes every return to a trap site memorable. And who knows, during the next inspection, an even bigger surprise may be waiting just ahead.
From before dawn, Martin, one of the most respected wild boar hunters in the region, was already at the trap site he had set days earlier. More than just a skilled marksman, Martin is known in the local community as a pioneer in using smart trapping systems to control wildlife safely and responsibly. Today's mission posed a serious challenge, a highly alert sounder of wild boar, and the team's responsibility was not to injure them, but to guide them back toward the forest without harm. The core strategy was pre-baiting, allowing the boar to become familiar with the trap site before any activation. The team used fermented corn and sweet bait, since wild boar find almost impossible to resist. Over several days, the entire sounder grew accustomed to the location and the food source, significantly increasing trap effectiveness while minimizing stress and panic. When the trap is finally triggered, the likelihood of capturing the entire group at once, rather than scattering individuals, makes the operation safer, faster, and far more efficient. Effective control does not come from haste, but from staying one step ahead. Martin uses Boar Buster, a modern trapping system designed specifically for wild boar and now widely deployed across the United States. Unlike traditional methods, Boar Buster allows an entire sounder to be controlled with a single activation, minimizing panic and greatly reducing the risk of boar scattering into nearby residential areas. For Martin, operating a trap is never just a technical procedure. Each activation is a responsible decision, tied directly to maintaining ecological order and protecting the everyday safety of the community. Before triggering the system, Martin carefully checks every factor: the trap's placement, the direction from which the boar approach, and the most appropriate moment to activate. Thanks to the pre-baiting process, allowing the boar to become familiar with the trap site over several days, when the entire sounder arrives, the system can be triggered with precision, keeping stress and unnecessary risk to an absolute minimum. Once the boar are securely contained, the team relocates them to a legally designated management area, ensuring the operation remains safe, controlled, and does not disrupt nearby residents. This is where technology, field experience, and patience converge. No rushed reactions, no loss of control, only proactive intervention to prevent damage, protect the community, and preserve balance within the local ecosystem.
Let's go, hip. Let's go, hip, hip. Get in there, hip, hip. Hip, 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 hip. Yeah, we gotta screw that to the bottom.
The screen of the Hawkeye camera we placed beside 3 big pig traps along the forest edge suddenly lit up. The hogs were in position. The bait, rooting juice, a mix of rotten cheese scent and sweet corn, was doing its job. 1:57 a.m. Dark shadows quietly entered the trap zone. No sound, no sign of suspicion. Wait a little longer. One more. Now, I hit the button. The round trap gate slammed shut. Instantly, the silence was ripped apart by the dry clang of metal striking metal. The hogs inside panicked, hurling themselves into the steel frame with such force that the whole area seemed to shake. The chaos lasted for several minutes before they finally realized they were completely trapped. To make sure nothing had gone wrong, we jumped into the Jeep Gladiator that same night and sped down the dirt trails. When the headlights hit the trap, the scene became crystal clear. The entire sounder, including hogs weighing over 200 pounds, had been captured. After the forest edge area had been disturbed, the hogs began shifting toward lower ground. To block their movement, I decided to set 2 additional octagon-style traps near the livestock pens. It was a narrow position directly along the trail they regularly used to reach water. Fresh rooting marks in the soil proved this had become the new hotspot. 9:21 p.m. The screen vibrated with movement. A large group entered. They sniffed, tested every steel bar. The tension weighed on every second. My hand stayed on the trigger button. Not too early. Not too late. I held my breath. This is the moment. Press it. The steel frame shook violently. The hogs inside lost all sense of direction, crashing into one another in the darkness while their bodies slammed against the steel mesh. The chaos peaked before they slowly exhausted themselves and were locked in tight. Less than 2 hours later, at 10:50 p.m., the second trap alerted. This group was more cautious. Just as they seemed to sense something was wrong, I activated the trap in time. 2 sounders. One night. Full control. Deep in the woods is where the large boars usually hide during the day. There, I used a reinforced box trap built with a specially strengthened steel frame. Through the camera, I watched them circle outside. They inspected everything, moved around again and again. I did not rush. Patience is the only weapon that matters. When the whole group was fully inside the zone, I triggered it. The gate dropped shut. Hogs weighing more than 250 pounds went wild, smashing into the walls of the trap with deafening force. Panic swallowed the entire group until they understood every effort was useless. They had fallen into a trap calculated down to the inch. After the hogs were secured, we handled the site safely and efficiently. The muddy ground after the rain unexpectedly worked in our favor, making it easier to drag the heavy animals thanks to the slick surface. We used a trailer and truck combination to move the load. Once finished, the hogs were divided into 2 parts. One portion sent to a professional processing facility, the rest donated to local families to prepare as food themselves. Everything ended cleanly, restoring peace to the ranch. This is not a numbers game. This is a battle of minds. Observation, patience, perfect timing. One small mistake, and everything falls apart. But when everything works exactly as planned, we do not just catch wild hogs. We take back the fields,